Hello, I'm in the room now. I don't know if anybody is in here yet. Oh, some people are here. Let me see. Can everybody hear me? Because I'm not used to this technology and I just need to check. I see that there are some attendees there already, which is great. And there's some joining us as we speak, which is really good. Okay, let me go on to the chat function. So I'm just going to ask you to write in your boxes that you can hear me and see me, if you wouldn't mind. And then we can start. People are joining as we speak. Now, I still haven't heard from any of you. So please do send me a message to let me know that you can hear me, because I should be live and I haven't heard from anybody yet. I just got a message that people are on to YouTube and they're not in the room, which is strange. I still don't know if people can hear me. Okay. I have got a message. I'm only watching you on YouTube. Is that okay? I suppose so. I think that actually that's how the program is conducted. Some of you are saying you can't see or hear anything yet. I'm not sure about this YouTube. I'll have to ask my technical assistant to look into this. But it seems that the majority of you can see me and hear me, and that it's on YouTube. That's no problem. So hopefully, maybe Monica, who says you can't see or hear anything, I don't know why that is, unless you don't have YouTube on your computer, but you should be able to get into that. Okay, now I think that I will start the webinar okay, I can hear you, but the link says watch this on YouTube. Playback on other websites has been disabled by the video owner. Yeah, I really don't know what that means. As long as people can hear me, that's the important thing, because everybody who is registered will get a replay of this, and it's an audio replay. It's not that important that you see me. Okay, now, so welcome to the webinar this afternoon. My name is Benig. The title of the webinar is Abandoned, Healing Mother Loss. Now, my plan is to speak with you for about 40 minutes, 45 minutes. And then I will open the I will open the floor to discussion, and I'm hoping I'll be able to do that. It's the first time I've used this software, so you may have to bear with me a little bit. But if you can't ask a question physically, as in I can't see you or hear you, you still will be able to hopefully write it in your chat box. Okay, now, so my plan is also to turn off the video now that you're here and to speak with you, and then I will turn the video on again a little later. It helps me to concentrate and not to worry about the technical aspects if I can turn off and also looking at myself in the mirror, if I can turn off the camera. Okay. So the camera is going off now, and you should be able to continue to hear me. If there's any problem with this, me having turned off my camera, please let me know. As long as you can hear me, that's the important thing. So I want to introduce, I want to start with talking about the feminine. The title of these webinars in general is, I've titled Call of the Sea, Engaging the Sacred Feminine to Heal and Enrich Your Life. Now, what do I mean when I talk about the feminine? Well, the feminine, of course, is an archetypal energy. It's an essence. It's an aspect of our natures. It exists in nature, of course, and it is part of all of us. The feminine aspect of us is what guides us generally for healing. Now, there are certain things associated with the feminine function. In general, we're talking about receptivity, the ability to be able to just be open. Paradox, the ability to be able to live with paradox. So, of course, when we're dealing with this very vulnerable and painful subject of abandonment and being abandoned, or else feeling abandoned, because one doesn't have to be physically abandoned to have a sense at times in our lives of being abandoned. This is something that happens throughout our life. Maybe there are certain events which happen to us which can trigger this sense of abandonment, one of which, of course, can be the loss of one's mother. And because that's something that I have experienced not long ago, it's kind of fresh in my mind. And it came to me that, of course, when one loses one's parents, at some level, even if you are extremely grown up and well into middle age and even advanced to middle age, you are an orphan. And so this sense of abandonment can trigger the orphan archetype in all of us. So what I'm going to do is talk about, I'm going to begin with talking about the formative impact of early life in a rather, I'll do that quickly. Those of you who know my work will possibly have read my book, Songs from the Womb, and my last book, A Love in a Time of Broken Hearts. So I'm going to talk about the formative impact of the early years and this mother-child bond, which kind of sets us on the road for life, if you like. And then I'm going to talk about the whole sense of abandonment and the orphan archetype and where that leaves us. Because again, as most of you who know my work will know, that I work very much from a depth psychological perspective. I'm a Jungian, but also from a spiritual perspective. And of course, this orphan archetype is fundamentally and primevally an essence or a force within us which will guide us always to find a place of home or to find a sense of belonging. And this is actually part of our spiritual path. Now, just checking again, hopefully everybody is okay and can hear me. I imagine that most of you can. At least I hope so. Now, so talking about the mother archetype. The mother archetype, again, is fundamental. It's let's say the mother archetype and the father archetype are fundamental to our passage or our growth on the planet. Can I just also check with people that you're using the webinar chat box, not the YouTube chat box, because I really don't know. I can't see the YouTube chat box. Do you understand? So if you have a chat box on the webinar, which you should have in the room, all of you there, please just use that rather than anything else. So now, as I was saying, so the mother archetype. Now, what does that mean? Well, you see, the mother archetype is humanized for us by our own personal mother. So that means that how the archetypal energy of the mother comes in to us and informs us in later life is through our experience of our own mother and our birth, our early life, and how we were brought up. So a fundamental part of obviously coming into from spirit into matter and become, joining the human race, let's say, is a sense of mothering. And so we grow up in all different ways, informed by our early life, informed by the initial experience with our mother. So what is the thing that the mother does for the child? Well, she helps the child incarnate into the world, gives a child a sense of self. The father does lots of things as well, but we're just talking about the initial stage. She gives life to the child. And of course, in the womb, those of you, again, who know this work or who know my work, will also know that our prenatal life is extremely formative, and the way we are born. So that the influences that come from the mother in the womb, together with the archetypal inheritance, has leaves imprints, let's say, in our later life. And so then once the child is born, the manner of the birth is also important. Again, this isn't the brief of this webinar, but that's something that we can go further into another time. So the mother she is responsible, if you like, for helping the child get a sense of self in the world. And she does this through mirroring, several things. Mirroring, which is the ability to attune to the child, the needs of the child, and to also mirror back to the child his or her experiences. And what that does is, you see, it gives meaning to the child's experiences. And of course, what that also means is that, let's say, for the sake of just giving an example, if a mother is very depressed in early life, in the early life of the baby, then the child tends not to be attuned to or not to be mirrored because the mother is preoccupied. And then what happens then, in the words of Donald Winnicott, pediatrician and psychoanalyst, is the mother then impinges on the sense of going on being of the child. In other words, the mother's own preoccupation or inability to be there or to mirror her child adequately it causes a reactive behavior in the child, which is, of course, unconsciously introjected, if you like, and then later on that will come through in the attachment behavior of the child. So now, so the archetypal mother is an adequate sense of mothering. And before all of you start thinking, I mean, because I know some of you and I don't know others of you, but before you all start thinking, oh, well, I had a very bad mother or I had a very bad start in life. Yes, we all have different starts in life. And of course, that does influence us. But on the other hand, every experience and even every wounding, every, you see, our wounds are actually conduits to healing. In other words, they're challenges for us to overcome at some level, to help us to evolve spiritually, as difficult as that may sound. So what happens then is that the child, you could say, who has been adequately mothered, if to use that word, or in Winnicott's terms, good enough mothering, the innate wisdom and strength of that child is constellated. Now, that happens to all of us in one way or another, but there can be impingement on that growth, so that in later life we seek then to heal it. Now, I don't know whether we can say that those of us who have felt abandoned in early life are more prone to feeling this sense of abandonment later on. I don't know. It's possible. But let's just look at what this sense of abandonment does, and the whole issue of the orphan archetype. Because in essence, if we begin to look at the I suppose the essence or the energies of the orphan archetype, it will help us to understand at some level our spiritual journey, our spiritual challenges, and ways in which we can heal that. So now, in a more general sense, because of course, we're not alone. So everything works from a personal and also a collective level. We know that it's very common to the human condition to feel abandoned, and there's a spiritual isolation, of course, which leads to a hunger and to a kind of world feeling of being abandoned. And you see, one of the things that is fascinating, I think, about modern life and modern technology is that at some level we've never been more easily connected with everybody else, i.e. on Facebook and all of this, but we've never been so lonely, because at some level we're looking outside of ourselves, you see. And when I was writing my book, Love in a Time of Broken Heart, it sort of became very clear to me that one of the main causes of our suffering is actually the fact that we tend to, even though we're told and we know it's a great spiritual truth that love lies within, but we look for it outside. And so and we also look for God outside of ourselves. And we imagine that we're separate and we feel disconnected. And then we feel abandoned, you see. We feel God has abandoned us. Our partner has abandoned us. Our parents have abandoned us. We are abandoned. Now, on the positive side of this sense of abandonment, Jung always talked about, individuation. Now, individuation is a Jungian term to mean coming into a sense of wholeness. And this is something that all human beings are destined to do at some, throughout their lives. It's a natural, gradual process, but you can engage with it consciously or not. And it is actually about coming into a personal sense of wholeness within the community and within in the world. And so, but one of the important things, it's necessary in order to individuate. There is a necessity to leave the pack. Do you understand? To leave one's initial family. Symbolically, you don't have to sort of physically, well, sometimes it means physically people have to go their own way and then come back and feel part of the world. But it is about becoming oneself, one's unique self. And so individuation often, what happens before individuation is a sense of being exiled or becoming an exile and feeling abandoned. So the orphan archetype, the positive side of the orphan archetype is that it pushes us into this sense, search for belonging. And we're talking about belonging to self, belonging to yourself, so you feel that you know who you are and you are happy with who you are and accept who you are. This is very difficult sometimes for us to grasp in a world where we tend to look outside always. Now, so let's go back to the orphan archetype. In my book, Love in a Time, I spoke about this and used the story, the fairy story, or the story of the ugly duckling as a symbolic representation of the orphan archetype. Now, what happens there? The poor ugly duckling is an ugly duckling, and the mother just doesn't quite know what to do with it. And she wants to love her little duckling, but everybody else thinks he's weird. And so, cut a long story short, he is outcast, and he leaves his nest and is pushed out, really, probably by the others. And he, as you know, goes from pillar to post and goes on this long journey to find himself, to find his inner swan until he becomes a swan. But the story, if you think about it symbolically, it is about finding your home, finding out who you are, finding out your authenticity, and you keep going till you find your home, or till you find where you belong. And it's a beautiful story to read because it can, I think, really help us when we're looking at our own search. You see, the feeling of being abandoned is so awful for most of us that no one wants to go there. And if we can only understand at some level that this is actually a push for us and part of a sort of growth. You see, the search itself is actually the healing. Do you understand? The healing is in the journey. I'm reminded, of course, of the poetry of, The Journey by Mary Oliver, the Canadian poet. You see, the journey is actually the healing. And ironically as well, by the way, I'm going to leave space for questions, but I'll just carry on for the moment. Ironically as well, it is our sense of abandonment and the inner orphan, if you like, that actually brings us inner healing, because we're all the time searching, and we won't stop until we find that sense of belonging, because it's essential to every human being for a sense of spiritual well-being. It's a difficult one to grasp sometimes, that the actual healing is in the abandonment and in the search to heal that. Now, there are certain things. There are certain things that can help, of course. I think intrinsic to this journey is solitude. You see, again, back to the ugly duckling and to what I said earlier. Normally children learn through mothering, through parenting. They learn about life. The mother and father are there to pick them up when they fall down and to explain to them how to move forward and how to grow and, about life in general. but the unmothered child. Now, the unmothered, I'm using that term in a psychological sense, not in a literal sense. So the orphan is unmothered, but it's the part of us that feels unmothered. And then when you think about the ugly duckling, the unmothered child learns through trial and error. He has to do it alone. So we're doing it alone. And when we feel abandoned, we're doing this journey ourselves, for ourselves. There's no one there going to help us with it, because it's a trial and error process. And I think that those of us who feel orphaned, whether you are physically orphaned or not, it doesn't matter. It's a sense of perhaps not being understood or being different or not nurtured in your essential essence, because the parents' role also, the parents will obviously educate their children along the lines of their own particular standards or their own inner world coming out. And so there are sometimes it's common to feel that you're different. You might be on a spiritual path and have been like that ever since you were a child, or that you had a very particular upbringing or had a difficult birth, or were always a little bit separate, always a little bit different to the clan or to the rest. And so not being nurtured in your essential self and feeling that you don't fit in. This is part of the orphan archetype, and this is part of the journey that pushes us then into finding our own inner truth. Because if you don't find your inner truth, you're not prospering, you're not living, you're not, well, you can be living, but you're not, spiritually nourished in any shape or form. You'll be acting out of duty, or you'll be always on the persona level of life and not connected to your inner self, which is where the wisdom is, always. So solitude is the ugly duckling and the orphan. Solitude. The solitude can be painful, but it also can be rewarding, as we said earlier. And you see, in the modern world as well, people are so busy. We're so busy running that we don't have time to feel. And here again is about the feminine. It's the feminine aspect of us, the feminine part of us. And this is not gender related, by the way. Men have feminines, as you well know, and women have masculines. But it's that part of us that actually nourishes us, and solitude replenishes the feminine. You see, here we're talking more gender related, if you like, but it's common for women to give their energy outwards to others and not to replenish themselves. A man can do the same thing from his inner feminine. And the important thing about solitude then is that you're actually in a way giving you're filling your inner well. Okay, it's like meditation can do it. Nature, of course, walking in nature or being by the sea, all of these things. And I'm so fortunate to live pretty much on the sea, and that's why I am always in awe of the power of nature to heal us. And so, because nature has its cycles and comes and goes and is just there, and solitude and nature can be very good for reconnecting us to our essential natures. And it sort of mends that fragmentation. You see, the sense of being abandoned is actually a disconnection. We feel disconnected. We feel on our own. And being on our own is not enough, you see. So this inner path or inner journey of finding will actually reconnect you in a strange way to your own heart, to your own wisdom, to what's going on inside, which is part of your soul. part of your soul's journey, and essential, I think, to it's essential to integrate that aspect of your life in order to feel whole. Now, and of course, nature, I'm very always, I use poetry a lot in my work, and I love the poetry of Rilke in particular. And he says, the sea cleanses me with its noise and lays a rhythm upon everything in me that is disturbed and confused. So being by the sea or being in nature is extremely beneficial in this sense. So the other thing I think that's important about the inner orphan, and looking at the using the symbolism of the ugly duckling, you see, it's about following your nature. So the ugly duckling continues. He just keeps going. He knows that he'll find what he's looking for. He knows that at some level he's going to get home. Why? Because this is part of our essence. You see, I think that the bottom line is, it used to be thought that, everybody, the big birth trauma was about everybody needing to get back to the nirvana of being in their mother's womb. I think that all of this goes back to, of course, it's a physical separation that happens to the human child, but I think all this goes back to a further separation of between, separation from the divine, the separation between your human and your divine side, so that it's sort of fundamental and primeval. And of course, we all have moments when nature or something in us comes in to warm us, some knowing or some feeling of knowing, and some light that comes there that can actually sustain us. And this is what, this is what, there's a few lines in the story which are so beautiful, and I'd like to read it to you from The Ugly Duckling. And it speaks to this help that we receive along the way. If we listen, if we pay attention to the inner voice, there is help there. One day, when his loneliness is at its peak and he swims in a cold pond, he hears the cry of creatures that fly overhead, and his heart leaps. Their cries resonate somewhere deep inside him. He looks up and sees the most beautiful creatures he has ever seen, and they cry down at him. His heart rises and breaks at the same time, and he feels a desperate love for these great white birds that he can't understand. And after they leave, he's even more bereft. And you see, the swan's cry of recognition is extremely painful because it's the cry of belonging and the cry of loss at the same time. So it's this poignant moment of knowing you belong, but you've lost that belonging. You see, you're searching for a lost wholeness. So this can go very deep, right through this sense of abandonment can connect us to this initial loss. And, in terms of the ugly duckling, he had seen his kind and his soul family. They had recognized him, but he wasn't yet ready to join his family. He hadn't yet recognized the swan in him. He still had growing to do. It's a beautiful story. The story of the ugly duckling is a metaphor for finding your own truth. And the central meaning of the exile is always about the search for true belonging. It's about recognizing your difference, your uniqueness, and finally coming to that place of belonging. So, of course, in terms of the work that we're doing, and the webinar, Mother Loss, Healing Mother Loss. You see, what this throws us into when we feel this is a search to belong to ourselves, as well. So when we feel abandoned, and nobody wants to hear this, all of us who get into this place, we feel abandoned by others. But in fact, there's part of us abandoning ourselves. And so the search is to come back to yourself, come back to your center of wholeness, whatever way you do that, even though one tends to look outside of ourselves always, as I said, to come to this connection. So in some strange way, the greatest gift of being abandoned or of feeling abandoned can, unbelievably as it may seem, lead to a deeper connection with our own heart, our essence, our divine natures, which in turn brings us healing. Now, so I would like to finish this webinar with a poem. So it's not very late, but I think that I would like to open the room to questions. I'm a novice at how to sort this out. But if any of you want to ask a question, I believe you have to kind of request or put up your hand or something. And then hopefully I'm going to turn the camera. When this happens, I'll turn the camera back on again. So you'll see me and you'll see yourself and you can ask a question. And just to say for all of you, these webinars are recorded. So if you don't want to give your name, that's fine, you know. So let's open up for questions. And while I'm waiting for the questions to come in, I'm going to just continue to read and to talk to you. I have two poems I was going to read. So the first one was to try and explain this whole thing about how we think that we are. Sorry, I just have to sort out my papers here. Now I'm not seeing any. Oh wait, there is. Oh, that's great. This is great. This technology. I can see a small hand. So there's one little request, which is wonderful. Okay, so now let me see how I can do this. Turn on the camera, and then no, so that's wrong. Let's see, turn on the webcam. Now, so the person who's asked the question, I have to view them and then have to say that they can speak. Is that right? Now we'll see if they can speak. I don't see any. Not sure that I've got that sorted. So let's try the chat box. I don't see the questions coming in. Request to speak button. How is it that nobody or Terry has asked to a question, but then when I invite him to speak, he's not speaking. So there, I feel alone with this. I can't. Anybody else would like to put up their hand, and I'll see, can I get this to work? It's extraordinary. Okay, so I've had a question by writing. So tell us a little bit more about good enough mothering. Well, what can I say about that? It was a term used by Winnicott, and good enough, I think, is a beautiful term because it's about, you know, a normal human being. A mother will always fail us. A father will fail us. We have to be failed in life because otherwise we would not be able to learn that life fails us. We can't live in the ideal. I'm thinking of Milton's Paradise Lost, and that's what happened. That, of course, they left the Garden of Eden. They had to leave the Garden of Eden in order to become conscious and to grow up. Again, that's symbolic. But the point is that a good enough parent is somebody who can fail her child, but who can also be there for her child. And I suppose some of the having worked a lot in that field, some of the most important things, I think, is the sense that the child can get of being contained. What does that mean? Well, being contained basically means that the child feels that they can be themselves and that it's okay. That the parent can actually, a mother or father, but in this case, talking about mother, can actually contain that. So if the child is very distressed, the mother doesn't get equally distressed or lose it. You see, this is what happens. Because if there hasn't been much containing in early life, then what happens? The child doesn't learn to contain. It finds containment difficult. An adult human being can find feelings overwhelming, can find emotions overwhelming. That's one of the things. Then, of course, you have mirroring and attunement, and children who are not adequately mirrored. In other words, what is mirroring? Well, an example of mirroring would be, those of you who are mothers will remember this, or may still be engaged in it. When you see, when your little child is growing up, when they're quite small, they want their parents to watch them doing stuff. Like I watch my little grandson, and he likes you to watch what he's doing, so that then you can say, that's really good. Watch me. I'm going to jump over this fence. Now, that's attunement and mirroring, is that the parent actually gives meaning to the child's experience. Do you understand? Through this attention. If a child doesn't get that much, then the sense of self is different. It has to learn these things, as I said earlier, like the ugly duckling, through trial and error, which is a different. Anybody else want to try this little thing of putting your hand up? Because we don't seem to have got the knack of it yet, which is a shame, because it would be great to have a discussion. I'm just going to look at my phone in case anybody's no, so it won't work like that. Let's see. Okay, there's another little hand. 2 requests, terrific. So now, but I don't know if this will work. Now, I have invited Deborah to speak, but I don't understand why she's not speaking. Is it that your microphone, is your microphone unmuted? It should be, but I don't know how to do it. I mean, I've just clicked and said yes. Maybe you have to turn on your microphone at your end. Would that be it? We'll have to deal with this so that we can get it right. I don't see anybody yet or hear anybody yet. It means unmuting your microphone on your computer. You should have a microphone. If you haven't, I'll try doing it with Anik then. Can you unmute your microphone? Isn't it strange? No, that doesn't seem to be working. Although I really appreciate the little hands going up, and I am giving permission to you to speak, but I can't read you. I can't see you. What a shame. But anyway, stay with me, because we can maybe use through the chat box, use the chat box again. Now, so Deborah is telling me she can't speak because she has to add an extension. Okay, to use this feature. Now, Annick, can you speak? Because you were the other one who wanted to speak. Can you click? Because you should be able to click on your microphone on your computer to be able to speak. And now, while you're trying to work this out, if anybody wants to write their question, I will. I'll try and answer. Oh, this looks hopeful. Hello? Now let's see. Can you speak?
Hello, Benny. Can you hear me?
Now let's see. Yes, I can hear you, and I hope
you speak. Yes, sorry, it does actually require Benny, can you hear me? Download a software. So
yes, I can hear you, and I
hear you now. Yes, sorry, it does actually require Benny, can you hear me? Download a software. So
yes, I can hear you, and I
hear you now. Yes, sorry, it does actually require Benny, can you hear me? Okay, it seems to be just repeating.
Okay, so if you don't mind, I'll have to eject you because we haven't, but we're learning all the time. So at least we know that you can come on. So I'm going to eject you from the room, not because you've done anything wrong, but it just obviously we need to sort out this thing of resonance. Now I'll have to talk to my technical helper about this, because yes, you were able to come in, but then there was this strange resonance. So maybe you'd like to write your question. Isn't this annoying about the questions? But at least we're getting there. So Monica, I hope that you are able to see or hear, because in the beginning you couldn't. Deborah, that's great. You can hear her, or you could hear her. So would some of you write your questions in the box so that I can answer it? And thank you for being on this first webinar, trying to use our. Obviously, it's telling you that you have to download software, but this is information that we need so that we can do this flawlessly next time. It's technology is annoying. At the same time, isn't it great that I can speak to you all, and you're all in different parts of the world? I had some attendees, I think, from the United States. They might have gone now, that they couldn't hear, but that's the wonderful thing about this this work. So now, are there any other questions about the material, about the orphan, about abandonment, about the whole experience of the search for belonging in general? While I'm waiting to hear from you, I'm going to read you the poem I had chosen to complete the webinar while I'm waiting for the questions, is from George Herbert, you know, and it's speaking to this sense of us that the part of us that abandons ourselves, that feels abandoned, and that feels disconnected. We're disconnected from God, from Source, from, you know, an archetypal mother that nurtures us. And so in essence, we're coming, what we feel is a sense of, and this is so common. And when I was writing my book, Love in a Time, I really could see this, that at base, we feel ourselves to be unworthy, you see. And therefore, we cut ourselves off. Now, I have a question. I'd like to know your opinion on how best a step-parent help a child heal from the death of their biological mother. Now, that is an interesting question. You see, I think that the bottom line about this is that the important thing is the awareness of the step-parent, the awareness of the step-parent, the openness of the heart of the step-parent to accept that this child has a great loss and a great grief from the loss of its biological mother. And it's the heart opening, it's the opening of the stepmother that will enable the child to heal, because it will enable the child to feel it can talk or speak. I thought it was very interesting. In fact, that's when I started the idea of this webinar, around the time that the young Prince Harry spoke about his grief after many years of being buried, the grief of losing his mother as a child. And you see, the thing is that children do have ways, as we all do, to close down and to close up their hearts, or close down on experiences that's perceived by the psyche to be too difficult. And so they can repress the feelings for a long time. Now, if the stepmother is open to the child and can the child will feel that. So the child will then be able to hopefully find a place to speak about it. Now, sometimes it may be that the child will need to speak to someone else other than the mother, the stepmother. But again, it's down to the openness and the consciousness, the psychological consciousness and the emotional openness of the step-parent. So I hope that was a helpful answer. I'm still waiting for more questions, and as I say, I'm talking about this this poem, "Love" by George Herbert. Love bade me welcome, yet my soul drew back, guilty of dust and sin. Those of you who like poetry will possibly remember that poem, but it speaks so well about our difficulty. You know, when we feel this disconnection from everyone, but from the world, but also from ourselves. And it says, "But quick-eyed love, observing me grow slack from my first entrance in, drew nearer to me, questioning sweetly if I needed anything. A guest, I answered, worthy to be here. Love said, thou shalt be he. I, the unkind, ungrateful, ah, my dear, I cannot look on thee. Love took my hand and smiling did reply, who made the eyes but I? Truth, Lord, but I have marred them. Let my shame go where it doth deserve. And know you not, says Love, who bore the blame? My dear, then I will serve. You must sit down, said Love, and taste my meat. So I did sit and eat. Now, I'm still waiting for a few more questions. We have a little bit more time. I might use the time also to say a little bit about the technical end of this, that some of you had difficulty logging on or getting your login details. It appears that when one registers for the webinar, you go first to PayPal, and then you must continue. Once you've done that, there's a box that says complete your registration and you return to merchant, maybe it says, and you click on that and it brings you back to the webinar, and then you give your email address, and then that's it, you've completed it, and you get the links in an email. So those of you that didn't complete your registration, that's why you didn't get the link. So in future, it's just a two-step process. It's just not very clear. I made the same mistake myself, but you were right to contact me so that I was able to give quite a few of you this emergency link, and it appears to work. So that's good. The other thing is we're going to try and sort out before the next webinar the chat function in terms of unmuting the microphone, but we know it does work because Anik was able to get in, even though we hadn't quite sorted the technical aspect. And thirdly, those of you who've registered will all get a replay of this webinar into your inbox. Or I think it's a link, I'm not sure. And then you can listen to it or download it. The link expires after a certain amount of time, but at least you have that. So are there any more questions? Anybody else wants to say anything? We are nearly out of time, but I wish I could hear you and see you. It would make it a lot easier. But perhaps you would just indicate if there's anything else you'd like to hear, and then I can address it. And just remember that, you know, to love your own inner orphan and recognize this orphan archetype is actually pushing you along your spiritual path. Yes, absolutely. A reminder to loving oneself. You see, the search for belonging is so basic and so archetypal and so primeval. It's to belong to the mother, to belong to the earth, to belong to God, to belong to, you know, the universe, if you like, and have a place in it. And so one needs to always come back to self at some point. And, you know, I remember when I went through a period of feeling very, very alone after a separation, one of my friends sent me a book on solitude. And it was really good. It was the difference between solitude and abandonment. You understand? Abandonment is one thing, solitude is another. And when you can turn abandonment into solitude, you are on the healing path. This is how it works. So it's been wonderful talking to you. I'm sorry about the technical glitches. I'm glad that my dog didn't bark because, you know, I'm talking to you from my house here by the sea and the dog is the other end of the house, but she does bark at times. And so that would be also on the recording. So next time, with the help of my technical person, we will be hopefully able to sort out the speaking and the questions. But any of you are welcome, those of you that are in with me now, to send me an email with any kind of question or anything else. So I wish you all a lovely afternoon and thank you again for joining me. Bye-bye.